What's up, people? This is the Believe in Saints podcast presented by FanDuel as well as ZipRecruiter. I am Mario Jerez, Spanish play-by-play voice of the Saints, native New Orleanian. She is my co-host, Erin Summers, veteran reporter and analyst covering the Saints and the NFL. Lots to discuss today, Erin. Chris Olave finally gets paid. He got the bag. We'll talk about the ramifications for both he and the Saints. Speaking of the Saints, they wrapped up their third practice before a day off tomorrow. Think the defense is looking pretty good. I'll definitely give some observations there when we break down camp. But before any of that, Erin, good to see you again. How are you?
I'm doing good. Yeah, it's been 3 days straight now with the Saints at camp. Lots of news early on in the early parts of training camp. Day off tomorrow, and then we'll be back at it. And yeah, it's good to be actually watching the team, seeing how things are unfolding. Lots of new pieces, so plenty to talk about.
Yes, I am calling a football game in 2 weeks, so that's pretty crazy, but in a good way. And there
Yeah.
is lots of news to break down, Aaron. We had some minor injuries in the last couple of practices, including Kool-Aid McKinstry, who did not practice today. But we'll start the show on a positive note. As we said in the intro, Chris Olave and the Saints are finally, formally, no doubt, locked in on a new deal. It is a 4-year extension worth $130 million, $90 million guaranteed. And as it sits, Aaron, this deal makes him the sixth highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. I think that's pretty fair given his production, not just throughout his career, but last season, coming off that career season, second team All Pro, 100 catches, 1,163 yards, and 9 touchdowns, all career highs. And I have a lot of thoughts here, but I'll let you have the floor first. What's your reaction to the Saints and Chris Olave finally getting this thing done?
I'm glad that they got it done. I'm glad that it didn't take weeks into training camp. I know they were trying to get it done before training camp started. Of course, Olave was watching from the sidelines, participating a little bit, but not in the team drills the past 2 days before the contract was signed yesterday. So good that they got this done. So now he can get back on the field with the team and he is able to have the majority of training camp, preseason, alongside a lot of new pieces on the offense, and then continue to work on that chemistry with Tyler Shuck. I think that we knew it was going to happen. I know that there's always the semantics of numbers and length and all of that. Like you said, sixth in the NFL. I think he should be pretty happy with that because, yes, he has been in the league for 4 years. I know a lot of people want to talk about his injuries, but 3 out of those 4 years when he played the majority of the season, over 1,000 yards. So he has shown that he can produce, and the Saints need him to produce this year. They need to be able to count on him as a number one back or number one receiver. And now they are investing in him that way, which should make him feel pretty good. He should be coming into the season very confident.
Well said, co-host. I agree 100%. The production's there. I think the production is going to be better now with the veteran Tyler Shuck, like you said, and with more options to complement Chris
Mhm.
Olave. But I think the intangibles are there too. Like all the words you heard from Kellen Moore, Mickey Loomis, talking about how important he is to the future of this team. I don't think it's lip service. And you and I, cover the team professionally. We're not really supposed to be quote unquote fans of the team or of individual players. But as somebody who wants the Saints to win games, I really admire Chris Olave as a player. As a
Mhm.
Saints fan, again, I'm a media member, but if I'm speaking as a fan, I hold him in the same regard as I hold Marcus Colston and Michael Thomas. And I've always, in his first 4 years of his career, I've always been really impressed by his ability to adapt and his ability to always have a good attitude. Like he came in with high expectations and he talked about it the last couple of days. The Saints traded up to get him. They really did
Mhm.
right by him through, all the blood clots and the concussions and all the issues. And in just 4 years with this franchise, Aaron, he's played under 3 different offensive coordinators, 2 full-time head coaches, and just the revolving door of quarterbacks, whether you talk about Andy Dalton, who was his quarterback most of his rookie year, or Derek Carr, who he had kind of a frosty relationship with based on what we saw, Jameis Winston, Spencer Rattler, Jake Hayner, and now he's finally found Tyler Shuck, who was a rookie
Mhm.
last year, but as a quarterback is responsible for the best stretch so far of Chris Olave's career. So it's a good thing for sure for the here and now. But going forward, this is somebody who's really earned my respect, Aaron. And now with a more competent head coach, a more competent quarterback, a more competent offense around him, I can't wait to see what he does next.
I think that the continuity that he is going to have going forward, Tyler Shuck is the quarterback here. And he and Chris Olave have been in the lab, like they like to say, since last season ended. They've both been working out together. They've spent a lot of time working on their relationship on and off the field, the chemistry that we're going to see. And I think that the offensive line and the way that the Saints addressed that position in free agency, bolstering the run game, is only going to help Chris Olave's numbers this season and being better than we've seen from previous years. There's going to be a lot less focus on him because you're going to have to worry about Jordan Tyson on the other side, Alvin Kamara, Travis Achane. There's going to be so many different pieces, not to mention all of the tight ends that we have, that people are going to have to take note of, and he is not going to have such a hard time getting open, getting good looks like he did last year, because he was really the only healthy player the entire year that was the biggest option that Tyler Shuck had, and even Spencer Rattler to start the season.
Yeah, this past year, but for most of his career also. Like I was having that talk with my buddy, like who's the best complimentary guys that Olave has had? I mean, no disrespect to Rashid Shaheed. He's had a good stretch in Seattle and in New Orleans, but I think he's more of like a third level guy, get behind the
Mhm.
defense. He had Michael Thomas as a rookie, but Mike was, on the way out. And we're just talking wide receivers there. Like you said, not even factoring in the running game, the tight ends. Like it's exciting stuff when you think about what Chris Olave could do now with the current iteration of the Saints. And if you're curious, the five guys ahead of him, CeeDee Lamb, who's at 34 million, Chris is at 33 based on the terms of the contract. Justin
Mhm.
Jefferson, 35 million. Drake London, the only one on this list that I have a little bit of beef with. I'd say Olave is a better receiver than him, but he's at $35.3 million. And no doubt about the top two, in my opinion, Jamar Chase and Jackson Smith and Jigba. But even if you do think the Saints are overpaying a little bit for Chris Olave, keep in mind that every other receiver on the depth chart is at a value right now. Whether you talk about Devon Bailey, who's under contract for
Mhm.
2 more seasons, Jordan Tyson, who's on a rookie deal. We'll see how much Barry Brown or Trey Lance emerge. But we'll see. I think it's still economically a pretty good situation, despite the fact you're giving one player $33 million of salary.
It's interesting too that 90 of it is guaranteed. That is a very large number in terms of history for the Saints, because the last contract, the closest contract that they guaranteed to that 90, was 60 million for Derek Carr. Then it goes Marshawn Lattimore 44, Ryan Ramczyk was 43, Drew Brees was 40, Michael Thomas 35. And actually, this is really interesting to me. I didn't realize, but David Edwards is guaranteed 30. So he is near the top of historically what the Saints have been willing to give somebody guaranteed out of the gate. And I mean, again, the value that they placed on the offensive line in that position at left guard, making sure that there wasn't a rotating door there anymore, huge. But then for Chris Olave to be guaranteed 90, I feel like part of the conversation was around that number because of the health issues. I'm sure his agent was vying for it to be guaranteed just for uh, insurance, right? For Olave, but then also the Saints. I'm sure that was a big debate on where that number would fall and how much of it was going to be guaranteed in the end.
Yeah, and that's a conversation we had to have. I don't mean to hand wave it. I just think it's a little unfair when they say Chris Olave is injury prone. Like we're afraid of him
Hmm.
getting on the field because 3 out of 4 years he has been on the field and he's had 1,000+ yards, not just available but productive. But it's definitely a factor, and
Hmm.
it's not just him saying it. Mickey Loomis is saying it. He cited his agents, negotiating about specifically that the blood clots and the concussions. And 2024 was rough. He had at least two concussions, two diagnosed ones. To be honest with you, he probably had more than that in that season alone. and he's had at least 4 concussions throughout his NFL career. And we should point out that he almost walked away from the game of football, Aaron. Like, it wasn't that long ago that he was
Hmm.
contemplating retirement, by his own words. He met with some specialists outside of the building, and that was a possibility for him. But I think last year, not just putting up the numbers, but having faith in his teammates again. He looks like somebody who may be lost, and I'm just speculating here. I don't know if Chris Olave would say this or not, but he looks like somebody who maybe lost his love for the game a little bit because of his health and because of the Saints' situation, losing a ton of games. But he looked really revitalized last season, and I'm curious to see if that continues in 2026.
He has always presented himself the same way. He is pretty quiet. He doesn't say a lot, but he's always got a smile. He's always, easy to approach as far as a reporter goes in the locker room. He may not want to talk every day, but he will say hello. He will talk to you in terms of just like, yeah, I'll actually do a formal interview tomorrow. I promise I'll get you guys. Like, he is understanding of that dynamic and the jobs that we have to do in terms of talking to the players. He obviously showed up every day during OTAs, during mini camp. He was even there on the sidelines supporting his teammates the past couple days when he didn't have the contract signed and couldn't fully participate. Wasn't, I'm sure, advised to participate, which understandable. But he was there dapping everybody up, being like the little energy on the sidelines, trying to help players out and stuff. So he has played a very important role for this team in terms of the leader that he is becoming and one of the older ones in the wide receiver room. And I think we're seeing a new era for Chris Olave, the guaranteed contract, the years he knows he's going to be staying in New Orleans. He feels like, I mean, that's life changing amount of money. He has made it. And I think that that's going to make him even more confident in his role there with the team, the leadership that he can provide, and what he can do on the field.
The leadership is key, Aaron, because I think he's had good examples of how to lead. When you talk about Cam Jordan, a lot of people probably wouldn't call Michael Thomas a great leader, just to be honest with you, but Chris Olave did. So according to him,
Yeah.
he's gotten good leadership there. But he's also kind of seen not how not to act, in my opinion. And I think a couple of years ago, there were a few instances where both Dennis Allen and Derek Carr tried to, I don't know if bully is the right word, but bully him a little bit.
Hmm.
Carr just being really obnoxious on the sideline. Some conversations I feel like they can have, a little bit more privately. And then Dennis Allen multiple times calling him out in the post game. And maybe Chris Olave did run the wrong route. Maybe he was supposed to sit on it instead of breaking out to the sideline or something like that. But he never called out Derek Carr. He never called out
Hmm.
other players. So that also just showed me a ton of maturity from him. And I think that's really valuable going forward. For what it's worth, Aaron, it's interesting looking at the FanDuel odds for Chris Olave, especially his touchdowns, because he's coming off a career high 9 touchdowns last season. But FanDuel only has him at over 5.5 touchdowns and over 5.5 touchdowns for Chris Olave in the 2026
Mm.
regular season, minus 114 odds. That seems kind of low, but I don't really think it's disrespect. If anything, I think it's respecting Chris Olave, because maybe he won't have the volume of stats, but he'll be more efficient because you have a Jordan Tyson and you have a Travis Achan eating up some of those stats. So I don't think it's really disrespect from FanDuel there. If anything, I think it shows that the sports books think the Saints are going to have a more complementary offense, and it's not just going to be Chris Olave versus the world as the game plan anymore.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I'm surprised that it's that low. I would give him more, and maybe I should go place that bet
Yeah.
on the over because I think that's going to happen, especially the way that this offense keeps talking about how fast they want to run, how efficient they want to be from the start, how many points they're hoping to put up. I think everybody's going to have a chance to eat in the offense, and I'll be interested to see how it actually does play out. We're getting a little taste of it. We're starting to see what some of the new wrinkles are going to be, how they're going to utilize the running backs. Alvin Kamara talked about that the other day, saying that he doesn't necessarily know what it's going to look like, but he is really excited to have somebody running alongside him. He likes having the two back system where it was him and Mark Ingram before, and now it's going to be him and Travis Achan. So there are lots of opportunities for everybody. Not as many touches to go around as Kellen Moore said the other day, though, because he's like, we got to be smart about who's getting the touches and how much and blah, blah, because we got to make the most of the time that we have. But I do think that we're going to see a little more creativity and opportunity for players.
I agree with you. Don't always, but I definitely do right there. And as Erin fires up her FanDuel app to go place that bet on Olave's touchdowns, I'll tell you that his
Hmm.
yardage total is at 1,050.5, right over 1,000 yards at minus 114 odds. So that would be something I'd consider as well. And we know Chris Olave is an all time great Saints wide receiver. I think that's been
Hmm.
proven by now, Erin. Can I tell you a story about another all time Saints great wide receiver?
Yes, please.
Okay, so as you know, like you, I once worked for the Saints and Pelicans. I was an
Hmm.
intern for the broadcast department over there on Airline Drive. And one day my job was to not conduct the interview, but to just record an interview with some of the broadcast team and Lance Moore, Super Bowl champion, Saints Hall of Fame wide receiver. And I made a really bad mistake on this day. And I was just an intern, right? Still learning the ropes. And I thought I was recording the interview when they started. It turns out I was not recording, and they were just talking to nobody for 30 minutes. And I had to make the very awkward move of letting them know, stopping the interview, and they conducted
Hmm.
like a half baked one that wasn't nearly as good. And I felt really bad. Like honestly, I was kind of dying on the inside, right? Like I'm an intern. I want to prove myself. This is such a big mess up. The lady conducting the interview was ready to choke slam me right then and there. Like I'm not having a good time. But Lance Moore kind of saw what I was going through, and he kind of just literally patted me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, it's gonna be okay, man. You know, in my career, I had some really bad mess ups too. I know today is a tough day, but that's all it is, a tough day." And those words really stuck with me when Lance Moore said that. And it's really important, I think, when somebody takes the extra step for you, like Lance Moore
Yeah.
did for me. When somebody goes the extra step, it makes a positive impression. And if you're hiring, great candidates can also go the extra step and tell you why they're interested in your job on ZipRecruiter as a way to stand out from the others. And right now, you could try it for free at ziprecruiter.com/audio. Candidates can tell you in their own words why they're interested in your job. So no wonder ZipRecruiter is the #1 rated hiring site based on G2. Try ZipRecruiter and meet great candidates who will go the extra step for your job. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. So try it for free today at ziprecruiter.com/audio. That's ziprecruiter.com/audio. ZipRecruiter. Meet your match on ZipRecruiter. And shout out to Lance Moore. I know I've told you that story before, Erin, but
Yeah.
pumped to tell it to the audience. Hope Lance is doing well wherever he is right now.
Yeah, Lance is doing great. He is actually helping people find jobs because he's working as an agent right now. So he is out there in the thick of it still. I know he joins our friends on Locked On Saints doing their podcast sometimes. So he is staying very connected to the team. He is a great example of a great Saints wide receiver person as well. So I love that he did that because I've been there where I've messed things up and it is not a good feeling. And you do feel like you're dying inside.
Yes, and you're right. I have called him. Shout out to our buddies over there, Locked On Ross and Dilly and all those guys. They
Hmm.
do a great job. And we do have some practice to break down. Erin, I feel like today was a little bit lighter, you know, with them being in shells and the day off coming tomorrow. But before we
Hmm.
get into that, we got some news on the Taysom Hill front earlier this week. And I said in our last show, I thought it was interesting that Mickey Loomis didn't all the way close the door on Taysom coming back to the Saints, but Taysom did that himself on Wednesday. He posted a long emotional post basically to the Who Dat Nation, to the city of New Orleans, and he said that he doesn't know if he's done playing just yet, but he knows that he's done playing in New Orleans and his days in the black and gold are over. And I gave my honest opinion on Taysom when we had that conversation, Erin. I think it was time for him and for the Saints to move on. But the guy is a freaking legend. He was so much fun to watch play. And you know, I do a lot of NFL games, high school games, college football games. I'm very blessed. There aren't many players whose games that I've enjoyed narrating as much as Taysom. Just all the stuff
Hmm.
that he did, how he put his body on the line time and time again and still kept going out there to do everything that they asked. We have a running joke on the Spanish broadcast that he's like the water carrier as well. Like he literally does everything on the sideline and on the field. So unfortunate his career ended kind of how it did last year. Not the best season, but as a whole, one of the better players in the history of this franchise, and no doubt, in my opinion, a future Saints Hall of Famer.
We talked about this earlier in the summer when we were referencing him and what we thought might happen. But that last game that he played in the Superdome, second last game of the season, he was so emotional. I mean, he was tearing up on the podium talking about what playing for the Saints meant and being in the Superdome. And you can just tell that he had genuine love for the city of New Orleans and his time here. So while it is done here, you mentioned that Loomis didn't close the door. He did not close the door on playing somewhere else. He didn't go as far as saying he was retiring from football. He just said he was done here with the Saints. So we may see that number 7 somewhere. I don't know. It could be maybe in Denver with one of his old friends, which seems kind of likely. However, it is tough to say goodbye to Taysom Hill. I think that it is a good thing for Kellen Moore because when you have a player like Taysom who can do so many different things, it's almost added pressure to try to figure out how to best utilize him. And he is such a unique player. There is not somebody else that's going to follow in his footsteps and do everything that he was able to do. So when Taysom's not on the field, your entire offense changes. And that's what they dealt with last year several times when Taysom would come in and get the ball near the goal line instead of just allowing Tyler Shuck to take it in. And it really put a wrinkle in things sometimes. When does Taysom come in? When is he not? What obviously the defense never knows what he's going to be. So it does have that advantage. But I think that it also could potentially hurt what they're trying to build offensively and mess up the rhythm that they have within a game as they're building this new offense under a new head coach, a new quarterback, etc.
Yeah, no, it was definitely clunky. And that's unfortunate because Kellen Moore, doesn't always say much in the media, but you can tell when he came over from Philly that he was really excited to coach Taysom Hill. He really
Mm-hmm.
wanted to put his own imprint on him and what he could do on the field. Just didn't work out, but still had some awesome moments with Taysom Hill. And when I think of my favorite memories with him, I think of that Seattle game a couple years ago when he basically won the game for the Saints. There was a game in 2018, not many people remember, but the Saints were down most of the game to the Cleveland Browns, and they really had a tough time getting going offensively.
Mm-hmm.
And Taysom, I don't think he scored. Actually, he did score a touchdown in that game, now that I think back about it. But he had a kick return. He had a really good tackle on special teams. Like, he really willed the Saints back into that game. The fake punt against Philadelphia in that divisional round game, 2018, that definitely comes to mind as well. And there were at least 2 or 3 times, Aaron, that he just made the Falcons his son. Like, he absolutely owned them in the Thanksgiving game in 2019, a couple other instances. So yeah, I really like that he had that post. I like that the organization is showing him respect. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
with you. I think if he plays anywhere, it's going to be in Denver. I could be wrong, but a lot of the league wants to recreate the next Taysom Hill. I don't know if they're very interested in the 2026 Taysom Hill, but I would think Sean Payton would be. So if you're asking for my prediction, I think it's either retirement or Denver Broncos. No in between.
Yeah, a lot of former Saints players have ended up on that Broncos roster for the former coach Sean Payton. So something to watch for and see if that does actually happen. But you got to give Taysom Hill his flowers, right? He's one of just 5 players in the entire NFL's history to have 10 receiving touchdowns, 10 rushing touchdowns, and 10 passing. So he's done what not many people have done. He's a very unique player. Coach Moore said it that a lot of people have tried to recreate Taysom Hill, find the next Taysom, and you just can't. There is only one. He is one of one. And I remember trying to nail him down for interviews with the Saints, and I never really could because he was in a different, you know, breakout meeting room, different position group meeting. He was in the quarterbacks room, he was in the tight ends room, he was in the running back room, and he was everywhere, special teams. So yeah, he, like to your point, did a little bit of everything for them. And I think even just his presence is going to be missed in the locker room.
If he does retire, we'll have to get him on Believe in Saints. That would be a really, really
Mm.
fun conversation. And as far as practice today went, the Saints were in shells today before a day off tomorrow. A couple of things of note, in my opinion, Aaron. Nothing major, but things we should note on the show nonetheless. Chris Rumph, the defensive end, was listed as a linebacker on today's roster. So that was interesting. Maybe some movement along the defensive line after the injury to Brian Brzee. No Cesar Ruiz, no Jalen Polk, no Devon Godshaw. Kool-Aid McKinstry was in walkthroughs, but he watched from the sideline during practice. He left practice yesterday. Kellen Moore
Mhm.
said he had a very minor ankle injury, like he twisted it, but did not participate today. And both Trey Palmer and Ronnie Bell, the wide receivers, left early with a trainer. As far as kind of observations, my opinion on things, Aaron, we are talking about practice here. Shout out to Allen Iverson. But in my opinion, through these sessions, the offense has not looked as good as a defense. Like they've been pushing the pocket back. I've been really impressed by Caden Ellis just as a pure pass rusher. We praised Devin Neal's pass blocking abilities so much as a running back, but he had one play yesterday where he just bull rushed him and basically tapped Tyler Shuck on the shoulder. And the secondary has been impressive. Before Kool-Aid McKinstry went down, he had some really nice plays. Jaden
Mhm.
Price, the backup slot corner, almost had an interception on Spencer Rattler yesterday. And they've just been really physical, in my opinion. Like, if you're asking me to grade the offense versus the defense right now and who's winning, I would probably say it's Brandon Staley's crew, despite all the hype that we've been given to Saints offense. So those are kind of my observations. Does anything stick out to you there?
I think that it makes sense that the defense is ahead of the offense right now because they didn't have as many new pieces added in. They're really just rinse and repeat from last year. They built over the season. They're starting ahead of the game. We heard Justin Reed say it a couple days ago. Last year we were at level 1, now we're at level 7. So they feel as a defensive unit that they are further ahead themselves than where they were last year. And they can kind of just continue to make that progress going forward. It's the offense that has to really figure a lot of pieces out. Coach Moore said that they were going to expand the playbook, push some different things out there. You have a lot of different pieces. You're trying to figure out who's going to fill in some of those rooms, whether it's paring down from the 7 tight ends that you have or the 50 wide receivers. You got to kind of figure out how things are going to look going forward. So I'm not surprised that the defense is further ahead. However, you do hope that there becomes that balance as training camp goes on, that the offense wins one day, defense wins one day, and it's not one that's so far ahead of the other consistently.
That is a great point, Aaron. Like the offense might have more talented individual pieces, but as a whole, with the chemistry, the defense maybe will have a faster start to the year. And towards the end, like you said, hopefully things balance out just a little bit. But especially in the practice a couple days ago, secondary was really standing out. Quincy Riley had an interception on
Mhm.
Tyler Shuck, the starting quarterback. Props to Jordan Tyson in the media availability this morning. He took 100% of the blame for it. He said he faked out before he went in, not supposed to do that. It threw Tyler Shuck off and he threw that interception. But Quincy Riley made a good play. We mentioned the dropped interception by Jaden Price against Spencer Rattler. Made a really good break on the ball, just couldn't hang on to it. And then when we talk about individual players who have impressed me so far, this one surprises me so far, Aaron, but it's an honest opinion. Ike Yadam looking really good. And today, when Kool-Aid McKinstry was not participating, he moved into the first group while Kool-Aid was watching. You would think it would be Emerson going in on that side, but it was Ike Yadam today. And he's had a couple of really nice plays. I remember, I believe it was on Tuesday, had a really nice PBU over the middle against, I believe it was Devon Vele. And he's
Mm.
somebody who maybe is not, the most talented cornerback in the world, wouldn't start on like every single team, but he knows this system really well. And I think he's dependable for Brandon Staley. And we talked a lot about Emerson, like we said, but Ike Yadam, I think, definitely going to be a part of the cornerback rotation as well.
Yeah, it makes sense. He is a veteran cornerback. He does know that position very well. He's an extremely smart player, and he has played in the system before. So I think that gives him a leg up for sure. In terms of the other cornerbacks, it's been Jonas Sanker that has been that first string nickel, as we mentioned, and Jaden Price that's been coming in, getting the second team reps there, which is interesting because we were wondering who it was going to be. He had an injury during the offseason. He was in a boot for a little while, but now he's back on the field, fully healthy, ready to go. We'll see how many reps he ends up getting there. But in terms of the cornerback rotation, it's definitely Jonas's job at this point to lose.
And he's looked pretty good as well. I forgot to mention Jonas Sanker in terms of guys who have impressed me, but he's looked good. Kool-Aid before the injury was making a lot of plays. Caden Ellis is going to be a factor. Like, he's pumped to be back in New Orleans, you could tell.
Hmm.
And then Nathan Shepard is someone who we don't talk about very much, but now that they're ramping up the physicality in the practices, defensive linemen are actually allowed to get off of blocks and at least hit running backs. We've seen Nathan Shepard make a lot of plays. So they're definitely relying on the young guys there on the interior defensive line. But with Brian Breesy going down, I think it's good to have some veteran presence as well.
Yeah, I agree totally. I think that Nathan Shepard makes a lot of sense to be there on the line alongside Godchaw, who obviously you mentioned did not practice today. He was an excused absence, but it's been Vernon Broughton and Nathan Shepard who have taken those first team reps without Brian Brzee. And then it's been John Ridgway and Miles Cole who have come in as that second unit. So those are the four players that we're looking at right now to fill in alongside the nose tackle, where it's been Godshaw and then Christian Miller, who has been rotating in behind him.
We'll see what happens there. Miller and those young guys getting valuable reps as training camp continues. Final point I want to make, Aaron, is Kendre Miller continues to look really good, and he actually rotated in with the first team today with Alvin Kamara and with Travis Achan. And maybe this moves, as training camp goes. We'll see if Kendre could stay healthy, but there's a clear pecking order right now. And Andre Kamara, Alvin Kamara, Travis Achan, and Kendre Miller all appear to be in the lead and all appear to be like guys that are going to be a factor for the Saints this year. Like, we've talked so much about the two-headed monster of Kamara and Achan, but if Kendre Miller stays on the field, we might have to add another head there.
Yeah, Juwan Johnson actually singled him out when he spoke to the media yesterday. He said that he sat back the other day and was like, man, we have a really talented backfield between Alvin Kamara, Travis Achan, and then, he singled out Kendre Miller as good as he's looked. He's coming back from that injury, but Juwan said, he is physically better than I've ever seen him look. He's fast. He's got power. I think that he might be somebody that everyone's overlooked because of the injury history, but you could sleep on him and you might get burned later this year because I've always been a fan when he's healthy. He definitely is one of the better backs in the league.
Yeah, he showed us a little bit of that last year. That Buffalo game definitely had some pep in his step. So we'll see what Kendre Miller can do. As we said, the Saints off tomorrow, back on the practice field on Sunday. And a week after that, joint practice with the Jacksonville Jaguars and a preseason game that I am broadcasting in the Superdome. Really excited about all that. So really enjoyed the show today. Aaron, do you have any final thoughts before we sign off for the weekend?
Hey, I am glad Chris Olave got his, that it is done. He can practice. Looked a little rusty today, but he'll shake that off, I'm sure. Expecting big things from CO this year.
As am I. And we're also expecting big things here on Believe in Saints. Stay tuned for all of our training camp coverage in the next couple of weeks. And thank you for listening. Don't forget to hit subscribe, leave a 5-star rating, and write a review. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Also, shout out to our friends at Katie's, 3701 Iberville Street. It's the weekend. Fall weather starting to be upon us in New Orleans. So great time to get out to Katie's. Enjoy the patio, eat some really good food, whether you're into fresh seafood, pizza, fried chicken. Chef Scott Craig will take care of it all for you. The most New Orleans restaurant around, Katie's in New Orleans, Mid-City New Orleans, I should say, 3701 Iberville Street. Thank y'all for listening. We'll talk to y'all real soon. For Erin Summers, I am Mario Jerez saying thank you for listening. Thank you for watching To Believe in Saints. We'll talk to y'all real soon. Have a good one.